Today, we're going to go over our top 10 players currently in the league. This is a little different. Normally, I just do quicker videos, but this is going to be just kind of going over who my top 10 players in the league are this year. And then also having some conversations around some of them because some of these players have conversations around them, whether they're good, whether they're bad. And it's just a way for to talk about them all while also giving my top 10 currently list. I am doing it as of March 12th, the games that have happened of March 12th. It's for this season alone, not I don't care about in the playoffs of last year or the year before or anything like that. It's just what we have seen through pretty much two-thirds of this NBA season so far. Um, I am also going with people that are injured will not be on the list, that will not make that 65 game requirement or have already completely missed it. Some of those people that would be in consideration, not necessarily would have been in my top 10, but are around that area, are guys like Wemby, Paolo, Banchero, Luca, Embiid, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie. Again, not all of them would have been in my top 10 if they were healthy, but there are people around the top 15, 20, top 10 area. And those guys will not be included because they will be injured. And also, when we do get to the top of the list, like players one, two, three, if I have you as the number one player in the league, it doesn't necessarily mean I have you as my MVP, or it doesn't necessarily mean you are the MVP for this season. So we'll start, and I'm going to do my honorable mention, my person that is 11th on my list that did not make the cut, and it's Stephen Curry. Now, Stephen Curry, since the Jimmy Butler trade, has been completely on fire. His last 5 games, he's averaging 30 points and 8 assists. I believe he's averaged over 30 since Jimmy has been there. The team is like 12-1 when he is playing. But again, this is the whole season. And before this Jimmy Butler trade and era happened, he wouldn't have even been considered. So the fact that he's 11th on my list, it's just where he has, I mean, again, 24 and a half points a game, 6 assists, 39% from three. And the team has stepped up. They have jumped up to around the 6th seed. But as we all know, the middle of the West is a dogfight, so they could drop down to 8 or 9, they could rise up to maybe 5 or 4, or they could stay right where they are. But he's who I have at number 10. Sorry, that was my honorable mention. My number 10 is Carl Anthony Towns. Again, some people might put Curry over him. Some people might have other people that maybe didn't make my list over him, but which is fine. It's my opinion, and whatever you want to say, you can tell me as well. But in 57 games this year, Cat has averaged 24 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. He's 42% from three. I think this is probably his best year of his career. Um, the Knicks are the 3rd seed. They're probably going to stay there. They could also drop to 4 because I believe the Bucks are pretty close to them as well. But um, and if you've watched my New York Knicks video that came out last week, I have been super critical of Carl Anthony Towns because, right, he's not the defender that you want, especially on this Knicks team. Um, I pretty much said, just to sum it up because I don't want to repeat it, but he's relatively lazy for what, like, he has bad body language and he can be really lazy at sometimes. The first 5 years of his career, he averaged a block and a half, and now he is under a block. And I know that's not why you have Cat on the team. That's why the Minnesota Timberwolves put a guy like Rudy Gobert around him and moved him to the 4 because that was his weakness. But seeing him back at the 5 is, again, it has its flaws. I mean, the offense is great having pretty much 5 guys that can stretch the floor in your starting lineup, but when you also really don't have a backup center that has been playing for a while. Like, right, Mitchell Robinson just came back not too long ago, and even Precious Achua, he's a small big man too. So while he is decent defensively, it's not the same as having a guy like Mitchell Robinson or a 7-footer down there that his job is to protect the paint and get rebounds, and that's why it's good that Mitchell Robinson is back for them. But um again, if his defense was better, he would probably be like in the top 6, 7 players based on this season, based on the year he has, but I just have people over him. My number 9 is Cade Cunningham, and the Cade hype this year has been crazy. A lot of people probably won't have him as high as 9. Some people probably have him around 14, 15 range because this is his first year of doing this. But again, this is based off this season, and I think he has been a top 10 player with those people, right? Like I said, that were injured. If everybody was healthy, like Wemby, Paolo, Luca, Embiid, AD, all those guys, Cade would not be in the top 10. But I mean, he's played 61 games this year. The most games he's ever played in his NBA career is 64, which is already a good sign. The Pistons are the 6th seed. They've blown all expectations out of the water. And it because right they had a 30-game losing streak last year, and they were just like, okay, let's maybe push to be a 12th or 11th seed, or maybe even sneak into the play-in. With the way that they're playing, they're probably going to miss the play. Like, they're going to be in the playoffs and they won't have to go through the play-in, and they're going to get a 7-game series for the first time since probably, like, I think it 2018 or something when Blake Griffin was there. But I mean, Cade at 25 and a half points, just over 9 assists a game, 6 rebounds. Um, he does right 4.5 turnovers, but when you are the only person pretty much that is handling the ball for a majority of the game, especially with Jaden Ivey being out for the year, those turnovers I don't care about because again, 9 assists. Um, and he's really the one that's making it all happen. Nobody else. I mean, he has Marcus Sasser on the bench, and Tobias Harris and the Asar takes a little bit of the playmaking when they need to at times. But again, Cade is what's making it happen. He's the engine to it, and I don't think those turnovers matter. He has career highs in field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, 36% from 3. I think with the way that he's going and with the way that this Pistons team is, again, this Pistons team does not have another all-star on the team. They didn't even acquire anything too amazing. They just got spacers. They got Tim Hardaway Jr., they got Malik Beasley, they got Tobias Harris, um, as those main guys, and just spacing the floor out just gives Cade so much more room to operate, and adding valuable veterans and role players that know what to do. Like Tobias Harris always gets a bad rep because he get all the money that he always gets, but he's a 10 plus year NBA veteran. He can score when he needs to, and he's been a part of playoff runs with Philly, and I think he was a part of the Clipper year with Shea, but he's been great for them at that 4 position, and Cade just has more options, even though they're not like a Zach Levine like they were looking for, or a guy that has a name to him and isn't just a player. But I think that Cade, with the way he's going with this, he's got superstar potential. We did on the Hoops All In main uh page where we do episodes every week. We talked about who our superstars are, and for me, Cade is a guy that could get there. He's not there yet. This is his first year of being. He's an all-star. His team is good. And this is the first year people are really waking up to him that weren't aware of him. But I mean, like I said, elite playmaker. He can get to the rim too. He's a big body. He's like 6'7", so he's not an awful defender either. Um, when he needs to be. And I mean, his last 5 games, 30 points and 8 assists. The Pistons are rolling, and I mean, it's really all because of Cade, and he has played a lot of games. So, um, my eighth spot is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant would have been a lot higher based on the way that he started off the year. He was in MVP conversations early on. Phoenix was like a top 4 seed, but Suns, they've fallen off so far. They're the 11th seed. Durant's played 52 games. He's averaging just under 27 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Still 59% from the 2-point range, 41% from 3. He's still the most efficient scorer we have ever seen. He's the greatest scorer we've ever seen. He can play make when he needs to. Again, he's got a guy like Devin Booker, Tyus Jones, Monte Morris who do, most of the playmaking for them now, but um he's just he's just been Kevin Durant, right? Mr. Reliable, always over 25 points a game, super efficient. Um, he's been rebounding recently great, which is something they need with not having a center core that they're in love with, even though Nick Richards has been good for them, I think, and has been better than what people thought because I think when they acquired it, they're like, oh, he's just a backup center, but I mean, he would. There was times where him and Mark Williams, like they were in Charlotte, were basically splitting minutes, and sometimes Nick Richards had to play a lot because Mark Williams was hurt. So I think that Nick Richards has been great for them. Bol Bol has risen out of the dark recently too, and has been a good offensive punch. And just a big-ish body, right? Because he's super tall, but he's not very uh big and doesn't have a big frame. He's just lanky and tall. Mason Plumlee has been fine, but again, I if it was up to me and I was running the Suns, I wouldn't want Mason Plumlee playing for me. So that's something that they need to try and address, whether they are trading Booker and Durant, which I've seen a few reports about the past couple days that for Durant, they would want like 3 first-round picks and a young player. For Booker, they would want 4 and a young player, but who knows? I mean, some people think Booker is a lot for lifer in Phoenix because of just what he's been through, and he brought them to the finals in 21, but I mean, Durant, I think everyone's said it. Brian Windhorst has said it. I mean, so many people have said it that Durant is probably gone after this year. And it makes sense, right? Durant is a guy that is perfectly fine with packing it up and moving when a situation isn't right. And he obviously gets a bad, he has a bad discourse around his name because of that, because some people don't like that. You're supposed to be like Curry and stay with a team forever, but I mean, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to lose, again, OKC to Golden State to Brooklyn, whatever. Though you can see however you want from that, but I think that Durant he'll be on the next team when the new season starts next year. And if he's not, then he's getting traded at the deadline again. And I don't really know where that is to because Durant makes a lot of money, but he's obviously one of the most sought after players. He would be great in like a Houston where they've got all the defensive guys around him. That would probably mean you're giving up one of Jabari or Tari Eason, maybe even throwing in Reed Shepherd, and you're giving picks back because Houston has picks. They can afford it, but that would mean that Houston would have to pick between their young players. Again, they're not going to trade. There's no way they trade Sengun. There's no way they trade Amen Thompson. I'm Jalen Green's one of my favorite players, but Jalen Green could possibly go, but then that doesn't make sense because you're getting another shooting guard. Again, unless you're trading Devin Booker as well and you want Jalen Green instead of Jabari Smith or something like that, then that's fine. But I think at least one or two of Jabari, Tari, Jalen Green, and Reed Shepherd would have to go in that deal. Then some contracts like Dylan Brooks. I don't know what his contract is. like his lengthwise, but I know he is making money. Steven Adams would probably have to go in it. Maybe they re-sign Fred VanVleet and throw him in it, but then there's also people say OKC for Durant, but OKC doesn't need him. They're gonna have to pay so much money to J Dub and Chet when they want it, which I think is this off season that they have to decide. And I think J Dub is going to get a bag, a huge amount of money, at least I close to 200 million. Chet's probably going to get close to 200. Shea whenever his contract is up, which I think might be next year. He's gonna get. I mean, he's probably gonna get at least 300, especially if he wins MVP this year. So, I don't think OKC should do it. But again, Durant, he's like Mr. Reliable. He'll always get you 25 until the day he retires, probably. So, um, my seventh best player in the league this year is Anthony Edwards. I know Anthony Edwards has some people haven't been a fan of his game this year because he is shooting over 10 3-pointers a game. And a lot of people loved him because he was, the athletic, gifted guy. He would dunk on you, but now he's doing this like Jason Tatum thing where he's a big wing, or well, he's not really a big wing, but he's a wing that has athleticism and the talent to get to the rim, but he's shooting more than he's getting to the rim. And I think that's bullshit because again, he's shooting 40% on threes this year. And again, he's taking over 10 a game. He's been super good in the pull up and he's still driving to the rim. He's still dunking on people. He's still getting to the rim when he needs to. And he is doing it with ease. So this to me just makes Anthony Edwards a way better player than what he was because now you either have to contest if you're a defender, you have to either contest the best pull-up jump shooter in the game right now, or you got to watch the drive for one of the best dunkers in the game. So I think people that don't like this just are being hard-headed because of they don't like how the league is playing and they're just looking for something to complain about. Um, Again, Anthony, he's played 63 games. The Timberwolves are the seventh seed, so they are not right. They're not the same team last year. They were in the conference finals last year. And if they were not in the play-in, then Anthony Edwards would probably be my number six best player in the league. 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists. I mean, he's also had he's had a few rough games recently too. So between the Timberwolves not being as high of a seed as they would probably want, and him having a little bit of a rough stretch between the with him and Randall being out, Gobert being out, he's at my seventh, and he could be higher, he could be lower, but um yeah, I just think that, I mean, Anthony Edwards, he's one of the most diverse players we have. He can score in any way you need for him to be. You still want to see his decision making getting better, his playmaking. He's got the infamous quote from earlier this year saying, "I don't want to pass the ball all game. I want to score." We've seen some teams, when that originally happened, force him to try and pass the ball and make decisions on his own, but again, he's got good play. I mean, Julius Randle's a good playmaker, even though he's been hurt. I mean, Mike Conley, when he is playing good, which isn't very often anymore, but and I mean, Jaden McDaniels has stepped up huge for the Timberwolves too, especially recently with all those guys being out, and then they've got all their young guns playing too. Terrence Shannon, Dillingham, Josh Minott. They're all they're all doing their thing, and I don't think no team wants to see this Timberwolves team as their first round matchup. I've said this before, but the Timberwolves are a team that you have to give the benefit of the doubt to, like we've done to the Warriors or the Lakers over the past few years, even though they haven't been a high seed and they've been in the in and out of the play in, or like the Warriors missing the playoffs completely. I don't ever want to see Anthony Edward this great of a defensive team. They were the number one defensive team last year. I don't want to see a team that was just the number one defensive team in the first round if I'm a Denver Nuggets, or if they drop to 8, the OKC that if OKC has to see um the Timberwolves in the first round, that I would be so pissed if I was the Thunder, because you have this amazing season, you get the first seed, and right, the reason you get a first seed, a second seed is so you play these weaker play-in teams or bottom of the playoff teams, because you want to have an easy path as long as you can. And if you're starting with the Timberwolves, that's a rough start to your playoffs, no matter who it is, whether it's a young team like Houston or whether it is the one of the best teams in the league in the Thunder, or the team with one of the best players in the league like the Nuggets. No, but I would not ever want to see the Timberwolves in the first round. So, um, for 6, I have Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson just got hurt recently. He's played 61 games. The Knicks are third in the East. 26 points, 7.5 assists, 38% from three. He gets to his spots. He's a small guard. He's a little stocky, but he's a small guard, 6'2" ish. He gets his spot. He gets to that floater. He gets to the left hand and does what he needs to. And he's going to be a candidate for clutch player of the year this year. The ball's always in his hands. He plays a lot of minutes under the Thibodeau system. Obviously, they all do, but um, he's emerged from the past few years. He's become a household name. Um, he's probably, whether his Knicks term ends after this year, which it's probably not, or he stays here for another 7 years. I think Jalen Brunson is already like a top 7 Nick of all time, just because of what he's done, and he hasn't won a ring. And I don't think, even if he never wins a ring, I think he's going to be around a top 7 Nick of all time, just because of what he's brought back to the Knicks. Like, right, Carmelo Anthony never won a ring with the Knicks. There were some good teams, there were some bad teams when he was there, but he brought something back to New York and is one of New York Knicks, best players of all time, because of what he did in the time, even though it obviously never amounted to a ring. So Jalen Brunson, again, he would probably be a spot lower if Anthony Edwards hasn't been doing so rough. But I think Jalen Brunson, even last year, he was a candidate for getting the last All NBA first team, and now I don't know if he will be a candidate this year, because these 5 guys that are above him, I think, have just been playing way better, and it's pretty much cemented unless something crazy happens. But he's gonna be all NBA second team again for sure. So, Jalen Brunson, number 6. Fifth, the old man, LeBron. He played 58 games. He just got hurt versus Boston a few games ago with the groin. He'll be out a week or two. Hopefully no more than that. But again, groin, it's one of those things that you can't just have a timetable. You can't rush it, because it's how LeBron is feeling afterwards. It's not like he broke his finger and is going to be in a cast for 4 weeks or something. It's going to take time. Hopefully he'll be back before the playoffs, and they'll be fine. The Lakers are now the 3rd seed. They just dropped from the 2nd seed after they lost to Boston and Brooklyn. But LeBron, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 8.5 assists, 38.5% from three. He's converted since pretty much this Lakers stint that he's been here, to be a good 3-point shooter, because the Lakers haven't always had that around him, and he is that. He, again, 38.5% from three. This is probably my favorite year of LeBron in the Lakers, just because of what he's doing. He is now 40 years old, the oldest player in the league. And I think he has pretty much taken that last All NBA first team spot, which was kind of up in the air, whether it was going to go to Wemby, whether it was going to go to like Anthony Davis before they got hurt. And then since those guys got hurt, it's kind of all up in the air. And I think LeBron has taken that even at 40 years old. I don't know how many All NBA first teams LeBron has made in his career. Let's see. LeBron has made All NBA first team a record of 13 times. He's made second team 3 times and third team 4 times. That's 20 total selections for All NBA, and he's about to get his 14th first team All NBA, I think. And it's been completely deserved. He's fully accepted Luca being there when he was playing. He's tried to get him as comfortable as he can be because Luca's going through a huge transition. Pretty much the whole Lakers and Mavericks are, because this came out of nowhere, but LeBron James is the reason the LA is elite, and if you want to put him higher, then I can't be mad at you. But he and right, it's LeBron. He can do everything. He can rebound. He can play make. He can score at any level you need. His last 5 games, 26 points, 10.5 rebounds, 7 assists in 37 minutes per game. Again, he's been hurt the past for a few days now, but it's LeBron. I think he will come back and he will be just fine. Hopefully, Luca can get himself completely like stamped into this Lakers offense, because with them being a top 3 seed, they're in the playoffs and they probably will win their first round matchup, because it's probably going to be against like a Memphis Grizzlies or like one of those younger teams, like Houston, Memphis, something like that, if depending on how teams fall and rise within the last 15 to 20 games of the year. But um LeBron could of course have MVP nods. He's not going to get MVP, but he's going to have some MVP votes just because of what he's done. Um, and LeBron is just he put himself back into top 5 again, even with all these injuries. I think that he wouldn't have, even if all those guys that I mentioned at the beginning of the video were here. I only think LeBron would maybe drop 1 spot, if that, if all those guys were healthy. So it's LeBron. Number 4, Jason Tatum. I know a lot of people don't like Jason Tatum, and I do. He's my favorite player. I'm a Celtics fan. I'm not a delusional Celtics fan. I'm not going to say that Jason Tatum is completely flawless or has the greatest shot selection at times, because I know he doesn't. And some people just pick to not like him for stupid reasons, because he's not very energetic on the court. He's not very explosive or gets to the rim when he does, and he shoots the ball a little bit too much than people would like at his size. But I mean, he's averaging over 27 points a game. He's played 60 games. The Celtics are still the 2 seed. Again, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. His numbers, his rebounding and his assist numbers have just gone up every year. Um, he continues to improve the playmaking, and again, like I said, I know he sometimes does have questionable decision making skills, whether it's him passing too much because he wants to get the assists, or whether it's the shot selection with a unnecessary sidestep 3 when the Celtics have missed maybe 5 threes in a row, and he just takes a 3 with 6 seconds into the shot clock when it's just not needed. But he and again, coming from a Celtics fan, some people might not like, if you don't like the Celtics or Jason Tatum, but Jason Tatum is one of the few players in the league that, sure, he's not the best at anything. He's not the best shooter in the league. He's not the best scorer in the league, but he really doesn't have a flaw in his game. He can score, he can rebound at almost 9 a game. His playmaking has improved every single year. Um, Within the first finals that the Celtics were in with Tatum in 2022 versus the Warriors decided to let Jason Tatum make all the decisions and make him panic and try and do all these things that he wasn't accustomed to doing, because he was only, I think, 23 at the time. And they let Jalen Brown try and beat them. And Jalen Brown had probably the better efficiency numbers in that 22 finals. But it's because the Warriors did a good job of making Tatum uncomfortable, and I think since then he has completely flipped that around. The you can't do that anymore because Jason Tatum is a well above average passer, even for especially for his position, but even in the NBA. Now, again, is he getting 11 assists a game? Is he averaging a triple double or almost? No, but when he needs to, and especially in the playoffs, he will pass the ball to his guys. Now, his team has been better, right? He last year when they got Drew Holiday and Porzingis, it's the best team that he's been a part of. Um, this year they're still pretty much the same team, even though we're dealing with a lot of injuries, whether it's Drew Holiday or Porzingis. Brown and Tatum have missed some time recently too, but you can't you really can't make Tatum panic anymore because he is just he's improved in everything he needs to improve in. His over his last 5 games, he's averaged 33 points, 10 and a half rebounds, 6 assists. Same thing as LeBron. He will probably have MVP votes. He's not going to win MVP. Um, and he probably never will because people just don't like him. He has too good of a team, so it can't all be so all of the flowers can't be given to him. Again, he gets knocked because he didn't win Finals MVP. If I'm being honest, as a Celtics fan, Jason Tatum was the best player in that finals for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown got it because or well, Jason Tatum didn't get it because his shooting numbers were not good. I know that I think he shot around 30% or less than 30% from 3. Um and his field goal percentage in general was not good. I know that. I don't blame people for taking that into consideration, but and Jaylen Brown also got it because he was um guarding Luka Doncic for a majority of that series. But if you look at if you look at what he did do in um in that series, here we go. I brought up the numbers from this finals. And again, I know I'm going off topic, but this is what this episode is about, to talk about some of these best players. But in the finals, Tatum averaged 22 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal, half a block. His shooting numbers, though, right? 26% from three, 38% from the field. Awful shooting numbers. 16 turnovers in that finals in total, um, which comes to just about over 3 a game. But if we look at what Jaylen Brown did, right? About 21 points per game, so a point less than Tatum, 2 less rebounds, 2 less assists, about a half of a more steal and about the same blocks. But Brown shot 23% from the 3, which is, you know, Tatum shot 26, Brown shot 23, but his overall field goal percentage was 44, which is a lot better than 39 that Tatum had. But I don't Tatum people act like Tatum just gets completely carried by this. Tatum has made all NBA first team 3 years in a row. He's about to make a fourth, whether people like it or not, but he had was the best player in that finals series. It just Jaylen Brown got it because he was defending Luca. And I'm not saying I'm mad that Jaylen Brown got it, but it's just the fact that you hear all these things like, oh, Jaylen Brown was the best player and Jason Tatum got outplayed by Derek White, Andrew Holiday in that whole thing, when it's like, no, he didn't. Jason Tatum was the best player. He's basically the point guard for this team. And people don't understand that because you have 2 guards of Jaylen Brown, or not Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday and Derek White. But Jason Tatum's the point guard. Jason Tatum averages the most assists. He's bringing the ball up the court like 85% of the time. He's making plays for others. And Drew Holiday can do that. Derek White can do that. But Jason Tatum is just the one that, right, Joe Mazzulla trusts more because he's Jason Tatum. I mean, Jason Tatum has been out for a couple games recently, and Jalen Brown. It's been rough with Jalen Brown, being the guy. He's shot really bad. He hasn't been doing the playmaking that Tatum would do. Like the first game was the Pritchard and Derek White 40 piece each game. Jalen Brown was like, I think like 7 for 23 or something, shot horribly. And then they just played again last night, and Jalen Brown did not shoot good at all in that game either. They ended up winning versus Utah, but he just didn't have the game that you would have wanted, and he doesn't do what Jason Tatum does. I love Jalen Brown. Again, I'm a Celtics fan. I love this team. I've watched Jalen Brown since his rookie season. That was the first year I started watching basketball, but Jalen Brown can't do what Jason Tatum does. Whether people want to keep shitting on Jason Tatum or they want to, some people do appreciate him. Some people are starting to appreciate him more, which is good, but again, he's just never going to get the superstar treatment because people just want to find things to pick about instead of just watching basketball, enjoying basketball like they should. Although actually this game versus Utah, Brown had 26, 8, and 7. He shot but again 8 for 20, over 5 from three, three turnovers. So it wasn't actually as bad as I thought this last game, but it's still not the same of what Tatum does. Tatum just he attracts so much more eyes. Why do you think the Warriors in 2022 focused on Tatum? Because Tatum is the guy they were worried about, and they weren't worried about Jalen Brown, and that won them the series because they didn't care about what Jalen Brown was doing in that series. So, and it worked. But so enough about Tatum. Tatum's my fourth best player in the year, like it or not. He's been a top 5 player this year, and he's one of the best in the league, and he's one of the most valuable players in the league too. Again, he's not going to win MVP. He probably never will, and I know that, but he should get votes, whether it's a third place vote or whatever, however many votes are on the ballot. But my third best player this year has been Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis has played 52 games. Him and Durant are very close to not making this list. I think they can only miss about 4 more games each, and they both have missed time, so it's very well that they could not make this list, and then people move around, like Cade would go up to 8, Tatum would come up to 3 if they both don't, but again, this is as of right now, March 12th, and this is before the games that are played even on March 12th, so, again, don't think about the date too hard. It's just as of right now, and I'm not predicting what these guys are going to do in the last 15 games of the season either. So it's as of today. But Giannis 31 points a game, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. He's shooting over 62% from 2-point field goal, 60% from the field in general, but Giannis is I think Giannis is becoming very underappreciated. Giannis is one of the best players of all, one of the best power forwards of all time. I think he's probably fourth. I think the only power forwards that are above him are Dirk, Tim Duncan, and Karl Malone. I think he beats out guys like Kevin Garnett, Charles Barkley, just from what he's done. But I mean, he's averaged 30 for I would assume it's probably been about 4 years straight now. He's two-time MVP, one-time Defensive Player of the Year, nine-time All-Star. Um, Again, I know this isn't about your career, but this would be his third year in a row averaging 30, and the year before he averaged 29.9. So, and 29 a couple other times in his career. But again, he's one of the best players in the league. He's one of the most unstoppable players we've seen since Shaq. The fact that going back to Kevin Durant, the fact that Kevin Durant averages 58% from 2-pointers and Giannis averages 62 just shows you how crazy Durant can score from the mid range and everywhere else. But um, Giannis, again, this is almost his career low from three of 18%. He's had years where he would shoot 30, 31%, but he's shooting 18% this year, and it doesn't matter. He added the long mid range, which has been money for him all year. He's still probably the most versatile defender in the league, whether it's stealing, blocking, switching, help defensively, anything like that. He should be in the MVP race, but we all know it's a two-man race. The Bucks haven't had the greatest season. They've picked it up. I think they are the fourth seed, but um yeah, he's again one of the best players in the league. He's top three, whether people like it or not. He's dangerous when he comes to playoff time. We haven't seen him in the playoffs recently, at least not healthy, which I'm looking forward to this year. But especially if the standings stay the way they are, with Cleveland will be the one seed, and if the Giannis and the Bucks stay at the fourth seed, that could potentially mean a second round matchup of Cleveland and Milwaukee, and that would be an amazing series because you've got like guys like Mobley and Jared Allen to be down low to kind of have a Giannis wall, right? Everyone talks about the Giannis wall that you need to have to stop him. But let's be honest, people have tried that. It doesn't matter. Giannis can go right through you, right over you. Um, and he's gonna make you pay again. And let's not forget the Milwaukee Bucks have Damian Lillard on their team, who's had a crazy good improved season, especially from last year too. But um, Giannis over his last 5 games, 29 points per game, 13 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He's a great playmaker too when he needs to. Again, one of the best defenders in the league. I don't know what he's not going to win defensive player of the year, but he should make a defensive team again. And again, I just feel he's underappreciated because people are getting used to what he's doing, and we're going to talk about this again with one of the guys that I have ahead of him. But it's Giannis, he's one of the best players in the league. He's gonna be one of the best players of all time, whether he wins another ring or not. He'll probably never win another MVP, which is crazy to say because he could. I mean, 31 and 12, 6 assists, and he being a top four-ish seed pretty much every year when they're healthy. I just think he's underappreciated because people don't value what he does because he just runs and dunks, but people sure as hell love Shaq. Now, granted, that was a different time in the NBA. People love, you know, guys that guys that were dominant, but that's the problem with today's league is you have a guy like Jason Tatum who's not the same height or size as Giannis, of course, but he's close. He's about 6'8", 6'9", and he shoots a bunch of threes, and people hate that. But there's a guy like Giannis who's 2, 3 inches taller than Tatum, and he doesn't shoot, and people crucify him because he doesn't shoot. But if you don't like when bigger players are shooting all the time, why do you care? Because it's getting him to 31 points a game. They won a ring 4 years ago. This is a different team, first of all. And while it would suck for the Bucks to not have anything to show of this Damian Lillard era, however long it lasts for, between Dame and Giannis, whether one of them gets traded or they stay here until they retire. Um, Giannis he doesn't need to change anything about his game. Again, his team is not good, right? You've got like a 38-year-old Brooke Lopez. Bobby Portis has been hurt forever. Damian Lillard is still a star. He made All-Star game, but you traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma, and Kyle Kuzma's had a few good games for them since then. But after that, I mean, you don't have a bench, you don't have anything like that. I mean, you got Kevin Porter Jr., who he had a triple double a few games ago too, but it that Bucks team is just awful, and there's not much they can do with it. So I think that they might just be stuck for a little while, which sucks. Whether because that might mean that Giannis is leaving, which again, Giannis seems like a for lifer, but again, if he has to leave, then he needs to leave to go and get another shot at winning because there's no way a guy like Giannis should only end his career with one ring. Just in my opinion. So we'll go on to number two. Number two is Shea. And Shea was the main reason for this video. Pretty much these last three players, Shea, Giannis, and Tatum were the main reasons I wanted to make this video, and even Jokic, who you know now is number one. But Shea, he leads the league in scoring at almost 33 points per game, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, just under 2 steals. Again, like Durant, 58% from 2 and 38% from 3. Stop complaining about free throws, man. Free throws is something every elite player does. Some elite players do it more than others, but it doesn't matter. You find a better way to guard Shea. Find a way to guard Shea without fouling him, and then maybe it wouldn't be an issue. But when everybody's jumping at every pump fake or he's just good at foul drawer, there like it's different. You can't There are some people that are known as floppers, and I'm not throwing them under the bus because again, people play how they play their game, but Shea is not as big of a flopper as some people that we have seen in the league before. He's a foul baiter and people cannot guard him. Um Again, he's played 63 games. The Thunder are the first seed. They're the second best team, the second best record in the league behind Cleveland. But I was listening to Numbers on the Board talking on their show. MVP, and I don't remember all the names they said, but these were definite names they said. MVP Kobe, all 4 of Bron years, 3 of Michael Jordan's MVP years, Embiid's MVP year, Harden's MVP year, Shaq's MVP year, and Russell Westbrook's MVP year. They all average more free throws per game. Now, Harden got crucified too for free throws. He still sometimes does. But nobody complains about Russell Westbrook getting to the free throw line. No one I'm sure people weren't complaining about Michael Jordan getting to the free throw line. Some of these guys it makes right, Shaq getting to the free throw line, he wasn't causing a lot of damage from the free throw line anyways, but people complain about Harden, people complain about Embiid, and I think Embiid is way worse. I would say Embiid is a flopper more than Shea is. Embiid is one of those people that it's harder for me to watch him than it is to watch like prime Harden or prime Shea just because of um what he does and the fact that Embiid doesn't need to flop. Well, Harden and Westbrook are like point guards. They're smaller, so they get more contact. Embiid is just and Embiid's not the point for this, but again, all those guys, all those MVP years average more free throws than Shea. But now because Shea is doing it and he's exploiting, like not even he's not exploiting it. He's performing it perfectly. He's shooting over 90% from the free throw line on however many free throw attempts he's had this season. And he's taking advantage of it because people can't guard him or stay on their feet. And that like I hate again, I'm not a Thunder fan. I'm a Boston fan, and I want to beat the Thunder if we see them in the finals. But Shea is an elite scorer. He mid-range, he'll kill you. His again 38% from 3, but his free throws are a problem when every star player gets to the free throw line. Some players don't get to it as much, like the smaller point guards like Curry or Dame or something like that, but every elite player gets to the free throw line. LeBron, Kevin Durant when he need to. Jason Tatum does it too. Giannis, how many free throws does Giannis average? And I'm sure he might have been on this list of players MVP years that average more free throws too. Now, Giannis takes a long time to shoot his free throws. I know is a joke, but like people don't care about Giannis getting to the free throw line. So why do they care about Shea getting to the free throw line? Shea's the best scorer in the league right now. Again, almost 33 points per game. His last 5 games, which have all been wins, 37.5 points per game and 7 assists. He scored 50, I think, 4 or 5 times this year already. When he never scored 50 ever before this year, and he is my vote for MVP, I think. Um, Again, Jokic, which we'll get into right now, because again, this is another topic of why I wanted to make this, but Jokic in 59 games, the Nuggets have risen to the second seed, like we said, with the Lakers falling to the third seed. But again, 29 points a game, 13 rebounds, 10.5 assists, 43% from 3 on 4.5 attempts, 57% from the field. So actually might be ahead for me in the MVP race since the 30-20-20 game, and since OKC and Nuggets have both split a game in their series. But I mean, we all know who Jokic is. Again, some people that have Jokic as the no doubt MVP probably think of what I said with Giannis, that he's underappreciated because, oh hey, we see this. It's normal for Jokic to have a 30, 10, and 10 game because that's what he does. I think he's top 5 in triple doubles all time. And it's just what he's been doing, which I think, again, that's voters fatigue. That's where voters fatigue comes in. And it's one of the worst things because, again, even though I don't have Jokic as my MVP, I have Shea. I don't know. Voters fatigue. It's something that it's awful. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I have Jokic as the best player in the NBA this year. It doesn't mean if you're the best player, it doesn't mean you're MVP. Because if it did, LeBron would have 15 MVPs. Michael Jordan would have 12 MVPs. Wilt Chamberlain would have 8 MVPs, or like, you see my point. And all these guys like Russell Westbrook, um, James Harden. I mean, even like, I don't know, even guys like Steph Curry, like they would not have MVPs if you went based on who was the best player in the league that year. So I don't think best player in the league and MVP means the same thing. Again, they are both I think the two most valuable players in the league because you take Jokic off the Nuggets. First of all, they don't have a backup center. They're playing DeAndre Jordan, which I think is insane. DeAndre Jordan should not be playing in 2025, and he doesn't always play. But with Aaron Gordon missing time here and there, I mean, not Dayron, or well, yeah, Deron Holmes hasn't played at all this year, but he was a rookie anyways. And then Dario Saric hasn't played recently like that either. But I mean, and then you have Zeke Naji, Mr. 8 million a year for nothing, for no Mr. $8 million a year for no, work put in. But it's they're both valuable, and people like, if you think Jokic is the MVP, I can't disagree because Jokic is like, it's a two-man race. I don't Since I have watched the NBA, and I've watched the NBA since 2016, 2017. I know it's not as long as some people have been watching or anything like that, but this is the closest MVP race that I can think of since I've been watching, because I think even when you get to this point in the season where it's March 12th, there's about 15 to 20 games left in the year, people had a pretty good idea about who was winning MVP. Um, Now maybe it was still a 2-3 man race, but it was for show. It was, oh hey, this guy will get second, he'll get third. It's like it's a fight for second or third spot, but Shea still isn't my lock for like, I'm not locking in MVP because I want Shea to win. I don't want Jokic to get a fourth. I think if Jokic could very well get the fourth, and it would be well deserved. I thought Shea should have won last year too, if I'm being honest. Shea, I thought, should have gotten the MVP last year. Um, and some people are just picking Shea because, oh hey, it's something different. Some people are going to treat it like the Joel Embiid thing, right? Some people view the Joel Embiid MVP as oh here, we'll finally give you one since you've been runner up to Jokic for the past 2 or 3 years. But um, I think Embiid deserved it the year he got it, and Jokic deserves it too. Shea deserves it. It just, people can't get out of their own heads of, I have to be right when I'm talking about something, and it's the worst thing to talk about ever. One of the reasons I enjoy numbers on the board so much is because of their enjoy basketball like motto that they go off of. They have a whole company around it, and that's why they're my favorite people to watch in this, because it's not just everybody shitting on all these people. all so often. It's just like they you can be critical. You can have comments that you say that you don't like, but when you talk about Shea versus Jokic, and it's like Shea can't win it because oh he's not averaging a triple double, which I think is also another awful way to look at MVP. I think since Westbrook won his MVP, everyone looks at MVP as who has the best stats and who is averaging a triple double because right we'll go over. Westbrook averaged a triple double first time since Oscar Robertson. He won that MVP. James Harden averaged like 34 points a game, and while it wasn't a triple double, he was getting triple doubles all the time. And then we got 2 years of Giannis who could get triple doubles too. And he was averaging over 30 points a game, like 14 rebounds, stuff like that. And then we've got Jokic, who that's right. That's Jokic is the triple double king in the NBA today, but who got 3 years, and then the year Embiid won it, he averaged 30 whatever points per game, and he got it anyways. I don't think that the MVP should be who has the best stats because again, I'm pretty sure the best stats is basically to me like the best player because you have the best numbers and your team is probably good. So that's why I think some people also viewed the MVP award as oh, just give it to the best player on the best team, right? But in that case, it would be Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, which I'm sure you guys realized, he was not on my top 10 list, while some people pretty much a lot of people do have him. He was 12th for me for this. Then Donovan Mitchell would be MVP. Does everybody here think that Donovan Mitchell should be MVP? No, of course not. Again, he could be in the voting because of how good the team is, but again, it's not based on the best team. You don't have to be a first seed to get MVP, and you don't have to average 40 to get MVP. Well, that's why I like there were Westbrook's year, I think they were the 6th seed, and I think one of Jokic's year, they were the 5th or 6th seed too. Um, so again, MVP voting, it's a mix of both of those things. Your team has to be good. For me, unless it is an extreme case, extreme scenario like Westbrook or one of the Jokic years, you have to be a top 4 seed. So that wipes out everybody that's not a top 4 seed. Like the fact that people had Wemby in and like as 4th MVP over guys like LeBron, Jason Tatum, things like that is ridiculous to me because how are you going to give MVP considerations to someone that's a 13th seed? That's why you can't go just based off stats, even though Wemby had Wemby has great stats. They're not the best in the league, but they're top 10 when he was playing. So you can't go based off just numbers, and you can't go off of team success only because then Donovan Mitchell would be our MVP this year. Last year, the MVP would have been Jason Tatum. The year before that would have been, I think, it may be Giannis. I think the Bucks were the 1 seed and had the best record. You can't go off of just that. You have to have a mix of these things. And again, MVP it's opinion based to a it's opinion based to a point. Again, the nothing really matters past the top 3 MVP votes. And if you're being honest, this year it only matters about the top 2 because again, Giannis isn't getting it, Tatum's not getting it, LeBron's not getting it. Um and I think they are probably in a mix of 3, 4, and 5 in MVP race. But again, the you can't just because Jokic is the best player in the league doesn't mean that Jokic is the MVP because Jokic would have won the Joel Embiid MVP. He would be winning this. He would be going on. He would probably this would be like his 5th straight if we were going on that. And again, like I said with LeBron, Jordan, like all these guys would have 10 plus MVPs if that's what we were going based off of. And while I don't think that Jokic should win it. Jokic isn't my pick. He can still win it, and that's fine. But you can't go based off just like, oh, I'm tired of seeing this which again, it's what people have done throughout history of the MVP award anyways, but I just again, if you have Shea over Jokic, then fine. Even if some people might have Giannis, which again, I don't think Giannis is pretty much is in the race anymore. But if you have Giannis, I mean, they're all doing amazing things. Tatum's doing amazing things. LeBron is doing amazing things in LA. I mean, again, it gets to a point where it's like there's only a few people that can be in consideration for MVP every year, and this year it's down to two. Again, everybody knows that, but Shea for me is my MVP as of today. Again, Shea could have a week of averaging 20 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and Jokic could have a week of averaging 40, 15, and 10. Jokic would be the MVP frontrunner at that point. But again, this is going to be one of my favorite seasons in the NBA just because the award races, especially just past MVP, now Defensive Player of the Year with Wemby being out, it's up in the air. Is it Jaren? Is it Mobley? Is it Dyson Daniels? Rookie of the Year, is it Stephon Castle? Is it Jalen Wells? Is it Zach Edey? Is it Khalil Ware? Um, Six man of the year even had, Payton Pritchard, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, Malik Beasley. Clutch player of the year is I think that is Trae Young, I think is pretty much the leader for that. But I mean, again, Trae Young, Jalen Brunson, Nikola Jokic, coach of the year. Are you going to just give it? You're probably going to give it to Kenny Atkinson because of the Cavs, expectations that they just completely they blew over expectations. But you could say Mark Dayanol, even though he won it last year. Ime Udoka for how he had the Houston Rockets looking. And they're just, or Taylor Jenkins for how he had the Grizzlies looking. JJ Redick because the Lakers are I think a tier below a contender. Like I think the contenders are OKC, Cleveland, and Boston as of today. The Lakers are the next tier. They're like you can't just push the Lakers. You can't just not worry about the Lakers anymore. They've got Luka. They've got LeBron. They've had one of the best defenses since those two have been playing together. So again, everyone has their opinion, but if you pick Jokic, don't diminish the things Shea is doing. And if you have Shea, don't diminish the things Jokic are doing. Tell us why Shea is doing. Tell me why you think Shea is better. Don't even bring up Jokic. Tell me what is good about Shea and what is good about Jokic if you're picking Jokic or any award this season or any for the seasons for the next 80 seasons or until the NBA isn't a thing anymore. Or it could be any sport. It could be NFL. It could be MLB. It could be NHL. Whatever. Just don't just diminish what other players are doing because Jokic is having probably his best season or one of the best seasons of all time statistically. This is Shea's best season. This could be Giannis's best season too. This is my favorite year, like I said, from LeBron since his Lakers, since he's been in LA. Jason Tatum is doing great things too. Again, 27, 9, and 6. Again, not all those guys are gonna get voted. Not all those guys are gonna win a MVP or win another MVP, like maybe in Giannis and LeBron's case. But again, talk up about the players that you have and don't just walk all over the other players. And I think that's why players, especially in the NBA, have such a issue with today's media personnel. We just saw the thing with LeBron and Stephen A. Smith going around. And who knows? There's probably tons of other scenario. We saw the thing with Joel Embiid earlier in the season with the Philly Reporter when he talked about his I believe it was his brother. He was talking about there's all these people don't like the media because of how that everything is negative so they can get views and clicks on their stuff. but your job isn't to make everybody hate your job isn't to make the players hate you or to make organizations hate you. It's to, get information, put your opinions for sure because you're entitled to your own opinion. But just because I have a different opinion than you doesn't mean that you're wrong or I'm wrong or you're right and I'm right. It's your opinion for a reason. There are things people can be wrong on, but again, when you're talking about media and you're talking about your opinion on a sport game, especially, everything is opinion based and nobody is going to agree with everything you said. I could have 10 I could have 10 different opinions right here, and you might disagree with every single one of them, or you might agree with 9 out of 10 of them, but you're going to not talk about the thing that you're not going to talk about the 9 things that you agree. You're going to talk about the one thing that we disagree on, instead of talking about, oh, hey, you also think that the Cavs are the best team in the league, but I said the Lakers are better than the Warriors, but you agreed with my 9 other things. You're gonna say, "Oh, the Lakers can't be better than the Warriors," instead of agreeing about the other things that we agreed on. That was 90% of the conversation. So again, this was a tangent, but this was a video that I wanted to make again because of some of these top players in the league, the discourse around their name. It's awful to look at. I mean, I'm even at a point where, like, when you look at something online, you can't even open the comments because it's just everybody saying wild things or saying things that they're talking just to talk because they want to get their comment liked or they want to get somebody to follow them. And it's awful to hear about, it's awful to read about, and it's awful that people even have to talk about it. So, and I know, again, I'm not really talking to a lot of people, me personally saying this, but I've seen a video like this being made across some of the biggest people in sports, whether it's NBA or anything else, or they're on ESPN too. And again, I think, and last thing is, um, a thing I also heard about is NBA is one of the sports where our former players don't like they talk down on the current generation. I mean, I love listening to the inside the NBA guys of Charles Barkley and Shaq, but because they're hilarious, they're funny, they are former players, and they're some of the most well-known media people that we have. But man, sometimes listening to Charles Barkley talking about some of the NBA players currently, or Shaq talking about some of the players currently, it's awful to listen to. And while I do like listening to NBA players do have their own podcasts or their own media or whatever it is, the older generations just look down on everything that we do because the game is changing and it's not the way they did it. I mean, it's like even people in the NBA are talking down about the newer people coming in, or the even the younger generation is hating on the older generation because they're just doing things differently than what they once were. So again, it's something that I don't know if it will ever be fixed, but as someone that loves watching basketball and talking about it, it's the worst thing that I see every day when I'm looking at a post from the NBA or from Bleacher Report or from House of Highlights, and then you look down and you see all the things that are just unnecessary to say. Whether it's people clowning Tatum because he does a lot of things to honor Kobe, or because Shea gets to the free throw line too much, or because Jokic only cares about racing horses or some stuff like that. It's one of the it's there's some most of the conversations that happen in comment sections or on media. It's so unnecessary to have because you're talking about the product off the court and not what's on the court. Because if we're talking about on the court, sure, Tatum isn't the most energetic person or the most outgoing guy, but he's one of the best players in the league. He's been for years now. he's never had things that, like, he's never had accusations of things. He's a family man. He does, he goes home and he's one of the best players in the league. But because he's not cool enough for the younger generation, it takes away everything he does on the court. And it's ridiculous. So again, that was my top 10 NBA players. Again, we'll come back when we have special performances or um, other news or topics to talk about. But that was my top 10 NBA players and some of the things that were wrong with the NBA today.